Tuesday evening to you all out there in Cleveland Browns land, and welcome into another episode of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Jacob, Mr. Casey Kinnaman. That is not Casey. That is Nick Carnes. Casey Kinnaman, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Casey.
He's currently on birthday assignment and will not be with us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. We're presented by our friends over at SeatGeek. So if you want to get some tickets to go see them Cavs, get ready. Hey, Guardians baseball is right around the corner. Get you some tickets for that. Use our promo code Barking Browns, all one word, at checkout. Get $20 off your first purchase. Nick, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm pretty good. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm still defrosting. It is for anybody working outside. I hope you're staying warm. I am one of them. And today was less warm than I've ever been in my life, but that's okay because the days are getting longer. We're going to spring ahead soon. We're going to have a little spring training action. You can go to the Rocket Arena now. I really liked Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. I thought that was a cool name.
I just got used to it.
Yeah. Romo Fijo. And I don't know. Now it's the Rocket Arena, but
I didn't even know that was an option for it to be changed again so quickly. I got on social media and they're like, it's the Rocket Arena now, and I'm like, oh wow. We're doing this again already. Sure, okay, that's fine.
I'll tell you what though, when the Cleveland Rockers are playing in the Rocket Arena, that's going to be kind of fun.
Yeah. That works. So I can see the appeal of going down that direction, but it's just interesting. I just didn't expect that. So welcome into everybody that is tuning in on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch, wherever you guys are at. We're happy to have you guys here. It's quiet right now. It is quiet season. The NFL Combine is nearly here, and that is exactly when quiet season starts to get a little loud. So I have my ears. This is something I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today, and I said, I've got my ear to the ground, and I am trying to get anything I can from my sources, from my friends and connections, what little sources and little connections I have. But I have a couple. From what I have, I've been trying to get something, anything. And I just sent him a text probably about an hour ago, and I said, they're locked in Berea like it's Fort Knox right now because they don't have to have anybody out there saying anything. So right now there's just really nothing. There was a question over on the OBR's Ask the Insiders board where they asked us hey, you guys haven't posted anything in a while, insider information. Is it just because there's really just nothing going on? It's yeah, pretty much. Right now there's just no information out there other than stuff you're getting from random scouts and things like that. You're getting some random scout stuff talking about some NFL teams are higher on this player or lower on this player, and you're getting mocks and things of that nature, but you're really not getting a whole lot of really concrete news right now. So I'm kind of grasping at straws. So if there's any questions you guys have or anything you want to discuss tonight, please fire in the comments.
Yeah, and I think what makes this phase of pre-draft so interesting is normally it's just speculation and you're waiting for the combine. And here with the Browns, courtesy of the Giants winning in that final week and putting them at number 2, it just all this okay, if the Giants were at number 2 and Shedeur Sanders was, putting out all this stuff, now granted, maybe it would be about the Giants, I don't know. I just feel like it would be boring Brown season and we'd be locked into Cavs and waiting for the combine. But it's because the Browns are number 2, it's just all this stuff just keeps coming, the Deion Sanders. I kind of chronicled it today. Where we began with Deion Sanders being on national TV, before the Super Bowl, basically saying it's in God's hands. He's not going to bar Shedeur from going anywhere, use his power to do that, because that was a lot of the conversation. And then it comes out that Shedeur's first meeting is with the Browns, which I mean is neither here nor there. It's just a piece of it.
It's just scheduling, but yes, it's still important.
It's important. It's just, but it's something you'd expect, right? You're picking number 2 overall, so that's not exactly.
I would hope a team without a quarterback is doing all the work on the quarterback. So yes, like
Right.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope it's not Justin Gilbert. Like I can't do that again, brother.
No, that's a wound that I don't think is going to heal anytime soon over here. But and then today, I'm just thinking it's a normal day. Like I'm probably not going to tweet because it sucks outside and I'm cold and I just want to get my workday done. And then this video of Shedeur saying he only plays the Browns and he likes the way they move in Madden. Just a pretty strange overall
thing, yeah.
strange. I don't really know what to make of it, and like the optimist and hopeful person in me like just ran with it, just took it full bore and ran with it. But I slept after work today, so I got a chance to sleep on it, reflect on it a little bit. It's just kind of strange to me, Jacob. It's just a little weird, and I don't know what to think about it.
So I thought about this one a lot after I got off work because I had seen some stuff, but there's a large portion of my day now with my new job where I don't look at my phone at all, just because it's just very bang, 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 ham on a deadline. I've got 3 days to get this job done, and I've got X amount. So I saw it early. I saw it probably around lunchtime. I saw people talking about it. I saw your messages, or I saw your tweets about it and some stuff like that. And I was like, that's really interesting. And then I put it, you're right, though. It's really weird because it wasn't like, oh, he wasn't like naming guys. He wasn't like, oh, I love playing with Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku. And like, I like Kevin's playbook or anything like that, where he was like, it was just like, I like the way they move. And I'm like, it's a compliment. But like you're kind of like I used to play with the Jets when they had Tim Tebow as the backup because I like to run people over with Tim Tebow. Like so like you know what I mean? So it's like I don't know like exactly what that means necessarily. And then you get the interesting part about it is the Tony Grossi. Did you hear the Tony Grossi quote? The little sound clip from Tony saying like that he thinks all the Shedeur Cleveland stuff is a smokescreen, and kind of made it sound like they believe Shedeur is in on the smokescreen, which was kind of an interesting part. But like, so I was thinking about all of that after work once I kind of had a chance to sit down and kind of reflect on it. And I think where I came out is people are like, is this a smokescreen or is this real buzz about the Browns and Shedeur Sanders? I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think when I look at it, I think there's real buzz. And there should be. I know I'm low on Shedeur Sanders, but like I said this on the OBR mock draft duel last night. Like, I get why. I see how it works. The reason I'm low on him is I don't see a guy that's ever better than top 16 at the position. And because he's just like, his physical traits are just, none of them are elite. And so I don't know how he gets into the elite echelon as a result of that. And so that's why I'm hesitant to take him at 2, because I can take a guy that can be a distributor and that kind of thing later. But we're not getting into that just a second. But I see the process. And I think what I ultimately came down to is this. I think the Sanders are fine if he goes to Cleveland. I don't think they would make a fuss. I don't see that as an issue. And I think that's kind of their point right here is like, I think there's some trying to drum it up. I think they would prefer a big market. I get that. I totally understand that. I get the ego side of things. I get all of that. So I totally think that there is some of that. Would they like to potentially try to get the Giants or the Raiders to come up and get him? I think there's some of that, to the sense where they're like this. Hey, listen, Cleveland's interested in me. I'm not going to bar him. Like Deion's like, I'm not going to say no. So, like, if you think I'm falling to 3 because you think Tennessee likes Cam Ward or they like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter or whatever it is, and you think that I'm just going to tell Cleveland to F off and then I'm going to fall to you, that's not going to happen. So, if you really want my son, or you really want me, if you're Shedeur, however it is the conversation, you're going to have to come up and get him because I'm not barring it, and Cleveland is interested. And I think they are interested. How much? I don't know. Maybe he's at the top of their list. Maybe he's not. But he's definitely, you're bringing him for a top 30 visit, which you should absolutely do.
Right.
But you're bringing him in for the top 30 visit. So there's some kind of interest. You don't just bring him in. Like, I guess you could use it as a smokescreen. I guess it's possible. But, I don't think they're in that situation with quarterbacks right now. So I think that they're sitting there and they're saying, hey, either Cleveland takes, either we go, because they could still go, he could still go 1, or Cleveland takes us, or one of those big markets jump up, or we go at 3 to the Giants, things like that. I think they're content with all of those outcomes on some level. I think they're like, yeah, either I'm a top 2 pick or I go to a big market, and he still might be a top 2. But I think it's like a combination of letting them know, hey, I'm not going to do you a favor. If you want to get Shedeur Sanders, you're going to have to come up and get him. And so I think it's a little combination of both. That's where I ultimately ended up.
Okay. In listening to you say that, I think I come out in a similar place. It doesn't feel like because that's for the Browns, right? Because what's most important, I think, to both of us is just the Browns, regardless of if they take Shedeur or not. The team's outlook is the most important piece of this. And as this situation develops, what I'm realizing is because the elephant in the room, the entire thing to me, the entire path forward in the draft centers around what are you doing with Myles Garrett? What are you going to be able to keep him? Are you moving him? Because to me, if they move him, then you're in asset accumulation mode. Right. And in that phase, in that situation, I would support a trade down because I think it would make the most sense because you're probably going to trade guys like Denzel Ward and maybe some of the other pieces. But so I don't want to dive too deep into that. But what I'm saying is Shedeur drumming up this interest because we're mostly in like a dead phase and it's like Shedeur has just filled it up completely. He is really doing the Browns a favor. Because regardless of if, like you say, we don't know how the Browns feel about Shedeur, but the point is that he's basically saying, if Cleveland takes me, Cleveland takes me. So that's going to do nothing but put the Browns in a better situation. Because if they don't like Shedeur, if they are planning on moving Myles, if they're even thinking about a trade down, that pick's getting more valuable by the day. Because if Deion had gone on national TV, or if Shedeur, before the Super Bowl had said, nope, Cleveland, we're out on Cleveland. We don't like that organization. We think they're in a bad place, and that's not a place my son can succeed or whatever. Then it's like the other teams, Las Vegas, New York, know that. And they can say, okay, well, we know you can't take Shedeur anyway, so we're going to give you peanuts in comparison to what we'd give you in the other situation. But because, like you say, it looks like the Sanders are okay with being in Cleveland, all of a sudden it puts the Browns, it puts Andrew Berry in the driver's seat. Whichever way he wants to go, he can say, well, if you're not going to give me what I want, if you're not going to give me an extra one next year, I'm taking Sanders and you're not getting him.
Yeah. It definitely, if there was ever any real belief that they were going to block Cleveland, it's not there anymore, so to speak. That's not an aspect of it that is helping another team in this situation because it does not appear that's a problem. And so, I did a mock for the OBR, a written mock on Monday with a trade back at 3. So trading back with the Giants, who in that simulation they did in fact take Shedeur Sanders at 2 when I did it, and I got an extra 3 for it, and so I had picked 65 and 67 in that simulation,
Okay.
and um, it was funny because I was told that actually the value chart they should have gave up more for that, but the simulator I was using, that's all they would give me. And so now it's like all of a sudden it's like, okay, now is it even more? Is it a second round pick? Like, are you getting pick? Like, and somebody's like, yeah, I think you can get their second round pick, which I think they're at 34. You're at 33. So yeah, they should be at 34.
That would be
So
amazing.
so like if you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, if you're Andrew Berry, you're the Browns, you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, we're not going to draft Shedeur Sanders here because we don't think he's a franchise quarterback. And I'm not saying they think that or not. But if that's where they ultimately come out on this conversation, and the Giants, because the Raiders, I think, are very much in play too. So now it starts becoming a thing where it's like the Browns can be like, well, I'm just going to take him. Or the Raiders are trying to take him. I think it puts them in a really nice situation because, if Cam Ward does go 1, and maybe Cam Ward's the only guy they like, right? And he goes 1. And it's like, okay, well, and then the Giants are like, we'll give you pick 34. And it's like, okay, so like you're going to come up against Shedeur Sanders, who we weren't going to take, wink, wink, because if they trade back, they weren't going to take him. They weren't that serious about taking him.
Right.
Ultimately, that's where they end up being, or they would fucking take him. It's like, that is what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
And so ultimately, if that happens, and then you're back at 3, and you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to take Abdul Carter, who I was going to take anyway, and now I got pick 34. Like something crazy like that could end up playing out. Like I think it's a real possibility. So they're in the spot right now where they could get 34 and then some. They could get a future asset too. Like it could be more than that. And ultimately, if it's the Raiders are giving you their first. If you're going back to 6, you're getting next year's first and their second this year.
That is juicy.
So like, ultimately, I don't see Myles Garrett getting moved. Not for one fucking second. Like there is absolutely no incentive for the Cleveland Browns to do that, and they should not do that. What have we talked about, Nick? When we talked about this offseason, Casey and you and I have talked about things we want them to change, right, with the way they do business, because there's certain things that they have done that have just not worked out favorably for them, right? Like we're like, stop taking risks on injury-laden players and stop taking risks on character guys and start making business decisions. Like they did what was right and they let Bill Callahan leave. They did what was right and get rid of and cut OBJ and did it in such a way that he was able to go wherever he wanted to go, essentially. And they did what was right. They did what was best for the player. Now, do what's best for the Cleveland Browns. And what's best for the Cleveland Browns is not to trade Myles Garrett. It's not on $36 million in dead cap if you trade him. Like I heard someone today, I guess Brian Hoyer got on there and said that they need to trade Myles Garrett on the radio. He says, trade Myles Garrett so they can get 5 or 6 good players. With what? They're losing money. Like he was like, because then they'll have the money.
I didn't hear that.
It was something about they'll be able to spend on 5 to 6 good players. How? They'll lose 39, 30. I think it's 36. I keep saying 39, but I think it's 36. They will lose 36 million on the cap, 36 million in dead cap for trading him.
If you're trading Myles Garrett, you're tanking. That's it. There's no 2 ways about it in my mind. If you're trading Myles Garrett,
this regime does not survive that.
No, they don't. And that's what I say to anybody who like puts that out there. I'm saying like, okay, then you have a lame duck regime that's just accepting that they're going to get fired. Why would they operate that way? Why? It doesn't make any sense. If you're going to
operate that way, you just fire everybody.
Right. And so I still don't see them trading Myles Garrett. And so if they're not going to trade Myles Garrett, the thing that's why that is really, in my mind, why I am taking this quarterback stuff and I'm running with it. Because to me, still, their best chance to get this thing going the right way is to have a cheap quarterback. Now, maybe that's in the form of like Kirk Cousins and like a guy that you take later. Like maybe you could get Kirk on like a veteran minimum type deal, like you did with Russell Wilson. The Pitt Steelers did with Russell Wilson. I don't know, but I just wanna say about the Shedeur conversation. You're in a place now where you might be able to really leverage some assets because it is no secret, that Las Vegas and New York, both want a quarterback, need a quarterback. You draft him like neighbors, you draft Brock Bowers. Those are foundational pieces that you need to start using to their full potential on offense. You need a quarterback. That's why I was even talking about it. Now I get it with the Giants. You're probably not going to get that, but you certainly can get way more than you possibly could have because they're going to be if you make it known that you don't like let's take your scenario. If you make it known that you don't want Shedeur Sanders, there's going to be a bidding war for that pick. It's not just going to be one team because so many teams need these quarterback. Like that really, if it goes that way, like I'm looking at this as a Browns fan, and when the outlook looked really grim previously, suddenly I'm saying either you like your quarterback and you take him, or you pit two other teams against each other and bid up that price to get as many assets to really start moving in the right direction again as you can. Because I'll tell you what, I mean, I know we haven't been in the real draft conversation in a while, but like when day one of the draft finishes and teams have a night to sleep on it, like that first pick in the second round is always super valuable, right? And if you were able to get the Giants second, right, you've got a ton of leverage where you can say, okay, maybe we can get creative with this situation, or you can just make back-to-back selections, right? You got a loaded running back class. You want to invigorate that position, but you're also saying to yourself, oh, I need more offensive line help, defensive line help. Suddenly you got your pick of the crop of both in day two of the draft. That feels, even if they don't take Shedeur, that feels like a hugely like if they nail those picks, that's how you reinvigorate a franchise.
Yeah, man. Like you talk about an older roster and things like that. And it's like the only way you're going to get better, younger and better at the same time is through nailing the draft and extra, the hit rate in the draft. I know people want to argue about Andrew Berry's hit rate. The hit rate just isn't great in general. So the more cracks at it, and if you're getting 3 cracks at the top 34, like if the Giants gave you their second as flip or something of that nature, like you're getting 3 cracks at the top 24 or 3 cracks at the top 34 is insane. I think back to the way they did it when they had the Texans first and second, or they had the first pick, the fourth pick, the 32nd pick, and the 35th pick, or whatever it was, something of that nature.
That sounds right.
And they go with Baker and Denzel, and then it's Austin Corbett was actually the first pick of the second round, and then it was that's when they took Nick Chubb was the second pick they had there, but that puts you in a spot where it's like a lot of people. I look at it, and I did a mock draft today, Monday, that had Omari and Hampton, the North Carolina running back, who's my running back too. I had him at pick 33, and I think it's a little bit unrealistic because I just don't know how much this regime values taking a running back that high, especially when you're looking at this class and saying like, I can get a starter in the 4th or 5th round. Like I feel that way about this guys. I have right now, I'm not done with my assessments. I'm trying to get done.
Okay.
I am working on my top 50. In my top 30, I have 4 running backs in the top 30.
Ooh,
and I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but then it expands out. Right now, I have 25 running backs I've watched at least a little tape on who all have 5th round grades or higher. And I think there's 30 plus running backs are getting selected in this class. Like,
damn.
But I'm talking about 25 of them that I have that I look at as starting caliber prospects. Maybe not right away. Maybe not like step on the field right away. You got some guys that are, and there's some other guys that are just like, Brashard Smith is a crazy one. Like the SMU guy is a former quarterback. No, sorry, former wide receiver turned running. Like there's just these guys all over the place. It's just crazy. So you're like, I could wait and take these guys later. But if you had 33 and 34, you could just be like, well, I could, as opposed like, because I think like that 33rd pick's really good for in the trenches somewhere. Rather, that's if you don't take out, like if you don't take Abdul Carter, you go some other route. 33 is a really good spot for a defensive tackle, a edge player, or some sort of offensive lineman. Rather, it's an interior or a tackle based on how that board falls. If you then potentially get 33 and 34, you have a spot where you can either go offense and defense line, or you can get offensive line and a running back if you had defensive line in the first, or if you know what I'm saying. It's like you could really attack and you could just go with one of those upper echelon running backs because you could say, yeah, I've got a need at running back, but it's plentiful here, and I've got bigger needs at other positions. But then you're like, well, I got these picks, and this guy's on the board. It's just the doors that it opens, and then you even bring it up. You talk about like the assets there and how valuable it can be. Say you really like Jalen Milroe, and he's the one I come back to a lot because of the upside. Like, and I've said this to people. Like, I had some people when my updated rankings, post Senior Bowl rankings came out last week. I had some conversations about Jalen Milroe, about why is he quarterback 3? Like, I need to have whatever you're smoking, and I'm like, well, he's got the highest ceiling of anybody in this class at that position. Oh no, he's just an athlete. No, he's not. I have watched him picked apart defenses at times. He's just wildly inconsistent as a passer, and his deep ball is just chef's kiss. Like he's got a bazooka, and it's just, so like let's say Milroe falls, and there's a chance he falls out of day one by himself. But let's just say you really, really like him, and it's like pick 28, pick 29, and then you're like, I could give up 33 and 34 and maybe something else and go up and get back into the first round without having to give up a future first, because those 2 picks right there have such value to where you traded back, and then you ultimately said, I want to get a quarterback here, and I want to do it with a 5th-year option. It's just the doors that it opens if you're able to do things like that. And so I think they're in a really good situation in the draft. They've got to work some magic in free agency. Like they have got to do some wheeling and some dealing. But where they are set up in the draft, they're set up to either take their guy at quarterback if they like one of these guys, or they're going to be able to auction off that pick, or they're going to take a guy that I think is a very special athlete in Abdul Carter. So I think ultimately when it comes to the draft and where they're set up with 12 picks and where the picks are, I just really love the position they're in to really be able to add a lot of talent and spread it across the roster.
I very much agree. And I'm trying to be like, I know obviously I have my preference, right? But sure, I'm trying to be open to all paths with the Browns. And I say, okay, so let's say they don't like Shedeur and they trade down and they do get an extra second. And I'm just thinking about that. And to me, a clearer path forward is like, okay, if you're going to get Kirk Cousins, if you're going to get one of these bridge guys, we've seen the Browns win with a very strong running game and complementary quarterback play. Right. So if you get, say you got 2 of those 2nd round picks, you take an offensive lineman, you take one of these running backs, all of a sudden, like I just have so much faith in this running back class and these guys to be able to make a difference. It's like we've seen the best we've ever seen this Browns offense with Kevin Stefanski and this regime is with a strong running game. And so I'm looking at that and saying, all right, fine. You didn't like Shedeur. You got a bunch of assets. You've got all these paths now, as you describe, to improve the team. My next best scenario then is you get a strong running back there, and you can because you had Jerry Jeudy breakout last year, and you still have David Njoku. You've got some passing weapons. It's just like you just haven't been able to run the ball in 2 years. So you can fix that right there with that extra asset you got, right? You can get one of these stud running backs, you can have them on a rookie deal, and you can really recreate the identity of your offense in just a few picks. And so I'm like, okay, does that seem like a bad scenario for the Browns? No, I don't think so. And I'm very pro taking a quarterback at 2, but I could see a very appetizing path forward if they are able to get these assets and use them effectively. Like that's the biggest question in my mind is of course, anytime you're talking about the draft, it's like, are you going to hit? But you just feel so much better about the odds of hitting on these guys, like you said, when you have more selections in the top 2 rounds. Like that feels like a very good place to be. And so I think ultimately I just feel reinvigorated as someone that loves to talk about this team every day, just because suddenly, like with this Shedeur hype and with the value of the pick going up and a potential bidding war, even if they don't like their quarterback, and then you can sell me on Abdul Carter. You could sell me on that, because suddenly I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, you lost all these picks to the Deshaun Watson trade, but now you've been able to take advantage of a gift the New York Giants and Drew Lock gave you the final week of the season. Thank you, Drew. Shout out to you. And you can turn that into a complete revitalization of your roster and your team, and in a league where for the first time in X amount of years, I don't know the number, where every single team has their own first round pick, and first round picks are more valuable probably than they've ever been. You have an opportunity to get 2 teams. If you don't like a quarterback, you have an opportunity to get 2 teams in a bidding war and get somebody's first round pick, and not a team that you're expecting to win like 11 games. Like I'm sure they could be like maybe a fringe, maybe the Raiders or maybe the Giants could be a fringe playoff team if they got better quarterback play. That's possible, but you're still looking at what I would think would be a middle or higher first round pick, if in the best case scenario that you were able to leverage Vegas's first round pick from them next year. And then you're looking at it and saying, well, we can do whatever we want in 2026 if we've got 2 high first round picks, or as like we just said, with this, if you're going to have two seconds in 2025, either way, I'm like, this is a great scenario, Jacob.
Yeah, or you take your quarterback.
Right.
And if you end up taking that quarterback and I'm wrong about him, and that would be awesome. Or you might have there. It's a very real possibility that you have your choice there too. What's up, Josh? It's a very, very real possibility that you have your choice, like that Cam Ward or Shedeur doesn't go 1. Like it could happen. They could take Abdul Carter. They could take Travis Hunter. And then you're sitting there and it's like, oh, you liked Cam and not Shedeur, or you liked Shedeur and not Cam, and you had that choice, and now you're sitting there and it's like, well, I'm just taking the quarterback now. Like, oh, I planned on trading it, but my quarterback's here, whichever one it was, it's like, because you know how it is. Like, I'm like a little bit of a pessimist when it's like that. Like, I remember the year it was Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, and the Eagles had traded up with the Browns at 2, and because they were like, we like both of these guys. Like, we don't care. Like, we don't care if Goff goes to the Rams and we get Wentz, or we don't care if Wentz goes there and we get Goff. Like so they traded up there in that situation. I don't think this is that year. I think a lot of teams like one of them and not the other. It's just how I feel, because it's probably a lot of it the way I feel about it. But like ultimately, if you're sitting there and he's your guy, yeah, like you take him. Like I don't think you just take like you got this. Here's the thing about the phrasing there, Josh. Like you say, just take the quarterback. It's a second pick. You don't just do anything with it. Like don't just take the quarterback. If he's your quarterback, if he's your dude, if you're like, there is a path. If I take Shedeur Sanders, I think we win a lot of games. And you know, I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, here's what I ultimately come to with him. I see a guy that's not that is a top 16 kind of guy. And so what you have to ask yourself is that good enough? And if the answer is yes, if that's good enough for you, and that's good enough for you to be able to build around and win football games with, then do it. Do it. Go do it if that's your guy. But I don't think you just take a quarterback. Like, I hate that argument so much because it's like, look at all the quarterbacks that have been just taken. I mean, the Jets just took a quarterback, and that was Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
want
they
to
did.
take Zach Wilson? Just take Zach Wilson. It's okay. Just take him. Is that what
Yeah,
you want to do? Is
I
that what you want to
get
do?
that. I very much get that. And you know what? You bring up Goff and you bring up top 16, and I get it. The Detroit Lions didn't get where they wanted to go, but they've been damn close. And I just ask myself, like,
And they
can the
won what,
Browns
15 games?
right? Like, can the Browns be, the AFC version of the Detroit Lions if they get a top 16 quarterback? Do is there enough faith in Andrew Berry? Like, because I know I've said a lot of things out of anger about Andrew Berry. I admit it. Okay, I get it, but he's done a lot of good things too. So it's like, if they can just, because we've seen, like, Baker was, I would say, more like top 12 in 2020. I would say
He
he
was
was
in that
somewhere.
range, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they were still a playoff team. They still won a playoff game. They won 11 games, and it's like, I would trade that for anything right now. You just got to get back to that, because, and we've talked about this a whole bunch, but it's like, there's so much that comes along with being seen as a stable franchise where players want to go, where coaches want to go and build to a tree and develop, and that whole thing. It's like, I'm just trying right now. I'm trying to be more realistic. I'm not saying, like, let's go win the Super Bowl in 2025. I'm saying, let's get back to being a winning team, right? A winning team, because the narrative and the feeling and everything that goes around with your franchise changes. And Jacob, I wanted to bring this up to you. There were reports today that the NFL salary cap is going to go up significantly once again, which we know Andrew Berry's salary cap. I mean, I know there's people that are like, the Browns are in salary cap hell, they can't do anything. But my point is, if Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski can get this team back to a winning team, and they can keep their jobs, I have a lot of faith in Andrew Berry's ability to capitalize on the cap. Like, you're moving away from Deshaun Watson. You're finally going to get closer and closer to getting that money away. And in conjunction, the cap goes up a ton. If you get the feeling around your team to a more positive place, say you do keep Miles like you proposed, right? And say you have a top 16 quarterback, I feel like all of a sudden you are right back there to guys will want to come to play in Cleveland. You can lure free agents. You'll have more flexibility. And Casey, shout out to him, last week was talking about how Howie Roseman took, like 7 years to really get things rolling. And I get it. That's not the ideal scenario. But my point is that if this is Andrew Berry's specialty, is playing with the cap and finding ways to just add as much talent as possible, the opportunity will be ripe if they can just navigate this year. This is such a crucial year for the direction of this franchise and where things go and who leads it and what the vision is. And so that's ultimately where I come back to is really, like, yes, I want a quarterback. I want Shedeur. I think he could be that top 16 guy here and hopefully higher. But whatever path they choose, I'm just like, get back to being a winning team, because then you have a golden opportunity to change really everything about where this team has been and where they're going.
Yeah. That's the thing. The thing that's interesting about, like, it's like I keep saying I'll throw a moderate fit if they were to draft Shedeur, but like I can see how it would be successful. So I'm like, like I'm like so internally conflicted, because I'm like, yeah, I could see how, but I would. It's not what I would do, It's just, but I don't think he's going to be a bust, I guess, is probably ultimately what I've come to. Like, I don't think he's going to be garbage. I just don't think the ceiling's that high. I think the floor is. I just don't know that the ceiling's that high. But, like, yeah, I mean, can he be borderline Jared Goff? Maybe. I think Jared Goff's got a better arm. I think he's got a way better arm.
Hmm.
But, like, does he have better ball placement than Goff? Yeah, probably. Um, yeah, we talked. It was
And
such a weird clip. It's such a weird clip.
it is a very weird clip. He's really good at this. Like if
Oh,
he
he's
is
so
good,
good at this.
if he is good, man, like he could be. The sky is the limit for what he could be, and especially in a city like Cleveland, right? Where if you're even a good quarterback, as we've seen with Baker Mayfield, not trying to piss anyone off, but if you're even a good quarterback, you are a god here.
And it's ultimately like I think some people are willing to accept good enough. And I think why I don't want to do that is just because I don't want to be caught in that perpetual state of good enough. And that's why I'd prefer to go for an elite blue chip prospect and a quarterback that can give me good enough later. Like I think I can get a quarterback that can give me good enough. But you see why I know the track record of outside of first round quarterbacks in Cleveland not doing anything. Like Cleveland selecting quarterbacks outside of the first round. I understand that sort of thing. And I know they've only taken the two quarterbacks in the top 10 or top 5 or whatever, and it's Couch and Baker. And we failed Tim Couch. So let's just be clear about that. I still wonder what Tim Couch could have done if he didn't go to an expansion team that just got him killed. You know how I know we failed Tim Couch? Whenever Tim Couch comes back to Cleveland, he gets cheered. Like he gets invited back and people love him. And they're just like, we know, man. We know it wasn't your fault.
Yep. Yep.
We're like, we know it wasn't your fault. And for that reason, you're all right with us.
I wanted to bring one other thought up because I know there are questions about Shedeur's arm. I think something that's interesting is this whole dome project and like where Cleveland Browns football is going because like I get it. You're still gonna and you're in the AFC North. Your three most consistent opponents are all outdoors. But I'm just saying that the majority of your games go from outdoor to indoor. That does make me feel a little better about a quarterback that maybe doesn't have the strongest arm, but an arm that's adequate.
Yeah. I think that when we are I think this goes both ways with people. I think when we are like very bullish and standoffish about a prospect on one way or another, we hate the prospect or we love the prospect. I think there's a tendency to latch on to either a positive or a negative and exaggerate it. And I think that's happening with Shedeur Sanders with his arm strength. Because what I have said and what I believe is he has an average arm. What some people are hearing and what some people are saying is he has a weak arm. That's not what I said, and that's not the truth. He has an average arm. He has an NFL arm. Let me be clear. He has an arm to make the NFL throws. He does not have an elite arm to make crazy throws. He's got elite accuracy, so he can still make some elite throws. Like he can make elite throws, but he doesn't have a Josh Allen arm. He doesn't have a Patrick Mahomes arm. He doesn't have a Baker Mayfield arm. Like he's more accurate than Baker, but see, you see what I'm getting at is like he's got an average arm. His arm's fine, but that's what I'm saying. Like his limitation is it's never going to be elite arm strength and arm talent. So you're not going to be like, oh my God, swoon over it. But then I think people then exaggerate it in the other direction where they're like, oh, you said he doesn't have a good arm. No, I didn't. I just said it wasn't a positive. Like if you go look at my scouting report on him, I put weaknesses. I put average arm. I didn't say bad arm. I didn't say weak arm. I said average arm. I've seen him chuck at 40, 50 yards in the air. It can get down there. He's just like, it's just he's still gonna underthrow a bunch of things. Like he's gonna underthrow some things, but like has he thrown a Hail Mary? Like yeah, I've seen it. Like I don't, I don't know, But like, I think we do that way too much with prospects. Like, it'll be like, Josh is struggling. He's struggling trying to type. He's having a little bit of a
Yeah.
trouble tonight. He's like, I'm getting all these typos.
And we
No,
appreciate you being here, Josh.
yeah, we do. We appreciate you. But yeah, like I just want us to stop. And you know what else I want to do? And I'm gonna get on my soapbox here for a second. We exaggerate in the positive and the negative in the draft world. What I also want to do is when you find a prospect that you like and that you didn't expect to like, can we stop saying that they're first round picks as soon as you watch tape and they just have like a moment? Like, I'm getting a little I'm getting a little exhausted at this. I watch some people that are like, hey, by the way, that Louisville quarterback, Tyler Shuck, that's how you say it, by the way. Like you're shucking corn. Shuck.
Okay.
Tyler.
Good to know.
Is he a first round talent? I'm like, what the fuck did you just say? And they're like, well, I watched his tape and he can sling it a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, he can. And I'll be honest with you, I watched a couple of games a day that I was like, okay, that's a day 3 quarterback that like maybe comes in and gets a little freaky in training camp, and all of a sudden he's starting games for you week 8, and you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But it's like you watched him; he has a little bit of good tape, and you forget the fact that he's 25. He's broken his collarbone twice. He's had another season ending. He's been at 3 different schools, and part of that's because of injuries. Like, don't get me wrong, like Tyler Shuck's got an arm. That dude can sling a thing. But like, and I love him to death, but it was Todd McShay. It was a guy that knows better than this.
Oh man.
And it was like I was driving in on Monday, and it was this podcast from last week, and like it had the like Tyler Shuck stuff. And he's like, "This guy can really play. Could he sneak into the first round?" And I'm like, just because somebody can play and is an intriguing prospect and they're better than you think, doesn't mean you need to catapult them into the first fucking round. Because it's just like, could he go higher than he should because he's a quarterback? Yes. That doesn't mean first round. Like, I thought it was crazy when they started sticking Jackson Dart in the first round. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing Tyler Shuck in the first round. Like, I'm like, could he go in the third round? Yes. I think he could go in the third round. I think he can go top 100. I think it's a very real possibility for him. Not top 32. Why are we doing these things? And then that is my soapbox for the week. Stop exaggerating. You know what? I got taught that recently in some not exaggerating, but like don't try to be real, be honest, say what you see, but don't overhype it. That's what I'm saying. I was writing something and I got that feedback at one point that's like, you kind of contradicted yourself in a sentence where you said, oh, this guy's got this, but he needs to add this. And you kind of contradicted yourself because you said that the one thing was elite, but he needs more strength and power. You can say he has really good physical tools, but needs to do this. He's like, don't overhype. You don't need to overhype things. It's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. It's like, you can say it's good, but it's not great. Instead of saying it's great, but it needs to be better. Like, then, you know what you go.
Sure, that's fair. Yeah. No, I agree. And I think
that's my soapbox.
I like your soapbox. I like your soapbox. I've seen banter that Jackson Dart is actually the second best quarterback in the draft, and that stuff's been, there's all kinds of stuff floating out there. And I'm not here claiming to be an expert or that kind of thing. And I wanted to bring this up to you. I'm glad you said it because I get it. We're in Buckeye country and we are in Homerville. I understand that. But I've been putting out Shedeur, and the take I get from multiple people consistently is that Will Howard's a better prospect. Will Howard's going to be the better pro. And it's just like constant. Like I had people today talking about Will Howard in comparison to Ben Roethlisberger and Shedeur just being not
an arm.
I agree. But I wanted to pick. I think this is a good place to end the show. Yeah. I wanted to pick your brain about Will Howard versus Shedeur Sanders and your thoughts because it's like I could see if it was like one person that's just like Will Howard's the truth and this is my flag plant, but it's like people just consistently are saying that Will Howard is a better prospect than Shedeur Sanders, and I'm like, I get it. He's big, he's mobile, he's got a strong arm. I understand all of those things, but I don't think it's reasonable to say that he is a better prospect at this point. And I wanted to ask you.
No, no. This is what is he a better prospect than Shedeur Sanders? No. Would there be a world where I was happier with Abdul Carter and Will Howard than just Shedeur Sanders? Yes. But that does not make him a better prospect. No, he's quarterback 4, which is not something I thought I would say even just 2 months ago or 6 months ago or whatever. Will Howard will make you want to drink Dr. Pepper naked while eating Cheetos in a beanbag chair. It's like I do that all the time, so I don't know. I don't know what. Will Howard kills me, man. I've got it's keyed up for when I need to use it, but I got the wink from the national championship game. I got that all like keyed up, and I use that all the time. I use that GIF. Here's the thing. Especially the college football playoff. Throughout this season, I did not start the first half of the season thinking Will Howard was a NFL quarterback. I think he was a day 3 NFL quarterback. I think he's a day 2 prospect. I have him at quarterback 4. He's just behind Jalen Milroe, and that's just because Milroe has that bigger. Milroe's kind of in his own category, in his own tier, just solely because he is a guy that's just not ready, but has such an enormous ceiling. But that really next echelon of quarterbacks, it's headlined by Will Howard for me. I look at a guy that like all the physical size, like he's got the build of an NFL quarterback, right? The size, the strength, the weight, and he's more mobile than you want to give him credit for. And I say that with a little bit of a laugh because I'll never get over him tripping. I would never. It wasn't as bad as Daniel Jones. At least there was somebody around him and he had a good reason to trip. But I'll never get over that, man. It was just too funny. Like, it was just too funny. But he's mobile. He's looking. He's smart. He's savvy. He's got like Shedeur, he's got an average arm. Like, again, can he push it 30, 40 yards downfield? Yes, he can. I watched him do it. Does he have good ball placement? Yes. It's not on Shedeur's level. Now, he's more experienced. He's been to more battles. He's seen more football. So I really like him. But he's not an elevator. Like, he does not have the tools needed to elevate everybody around him. He needs everything right around him. But some would argue that about Shedeur Sanders. And because of that, they're not that far off, is what I'll say. But like one's I have Shedeur as a late round 1. I have Will Howard as a mid round 3 right now. It's not that far. It's not that far apart. I even think like 60, 64, 67, whatever their pick is that round, I am okay with Will Howard at 67. I'm okay with getting him at the back end of round 2 because I understand there's a quarterback tax. Sure. He's not a better prospect than Shedeur Sanders, but they're not that far off. He's just he leads what the category of I like to call the point guards, who are going to be good distributors. I really like Will Howard. Sometimes he'll throw balls that his wide receivers have to make amazing catches to come down with. But one thing I like about a lot of those passes is the defender has no shot. So either the wide receiver has to make a crazy one-handed grab or it's going to be incomplete. So it's like, I kind of like those sorts of throws where it's like, yeah, you're going to have some crazy wide receivers to make some crazy catches, David Njoku, and some things like that. But like, you're not putting it in harm's way. And I really like that sort of thing. So I think Will Howard can be a successful quarterback, but again, that's a top 16 at best. He's probably top 20 is probably where he's at. And he needs everything right around him. So if you go into that and you say, we've rebuilt this offensive line, we draft some offensive line, we get another wide receiver, via trade, we get a running back, then we take Will Howard and we think he can run that system. Yes, Will Howard can run a Kevin Stefanski offense and he can do it well. But no, he's not. He's not on Shedeur's level. He's just not. But he's not a bad guy, a bad quarterback. He's my quarterback 4 right now.
I appreciate your perspective, and it makes me feel a little good because I'm far from the experienced tape watcher you are, but I've watched both Sanders and Howard, and the thing that I feel like is a large differentiator is I've seen Howard get rattled by pressure and really speed up and take risks that I feel like he doesn't need to. Whereas Shedeur played with a rough offensive line more often than not. And I just think that he deals with pressure better, and he just seems to have more fortitude in terms of he just doesn't look like he gets as rattled. He doesn't seem to take like there are so many Will Howard passes that like watching reminded me of Jameis Winston, where I was like, this could get picked off, or this could be a great completion, and I don't know which one it's going to be because the defender's right there, the receiver's right there, and especially over the middle. Like Will Howard is not afraid to throw that ball over the middle.
No. And I agree with Josh, by the way. I do still think that Howard was concussed against Michigan. But anyway, I still because that did not look like him at all, especially because right after that, he goes on that crazy college football run. Here's what I'll say about Shedeur. Some of the pressure issues with Shedeur, he brings on himself, and he brings a lot of bad sacks. You're right. He doesn't put the ball in harm's risk, but he will take a 25-yard sack. So like there is some major issues with that. And this is some of the stuff. Okay, look. So Shedeur finishes with a 1.3% turnover worthy play percentage this year. That is third best in the country. So only 1.3% of his plays were turnover worthy. Will Howard's was 3.1. Okay. So it was more than double. And he had Will Howard. But here comes the other one. Will Howard time to throw 2.66 seconds. And Shedeur's was 3. And then this is the one that really gets you because this can show you some of the elusiveness in the pocket. Will Howard's Shedeur Sanders in terms of the amount of quarterback pressures that get converted into sacks, and this has a lot to do with him holding onto the ball. His was at 20.1% of pressures. That's bad. 20.1% of a quarterback pressure turns into a sack. Will Howard's 13. So it's a little give and take with those guys. But like you going from a 3.1% turnover worthy play to a 1.3%, that's a lot cleaner football. So yeah, you're taking some bad sacks, but you're not turning it over. And so if you can clean up some of that stuff, the other risks, the risks that turn into the even worse plays, yeah, Shedeur's better at those. And yeah, Will Howard's to one more. Will Howard under pressure had a 51 passing grade in 2024, 51 from PFF. Shedeur had a 65.
Ooh, great stats.
Yeah, so there's a little give and take there. So again, Shedeur's the better prospect, but I can 100% see why you would be like, I'm going to take Abdul Carter, and then I'm going to take an offensive lineman, and then I'm going to take Will Howard. And I would be like, yeah, that's good too. But I actually lean that way because I like Abdul Carter and Will Howard more than I like Shedeur.
Okay, interesting. Because I do just want to. Obviously, I'm team Shedeur, but if you keep Myles Garrett, if you can get him back and you can put him with Abdul Carter, I mean that is just a tantalizing possibility. That just like okay, I just watched the Eagles make Patrick Mahomes look silly because they were able to rush with 4, not blitz. Yeah, just like Tampa Bay, which is clearly the formula, right? And so you can even beat the elite quarterbacks if you've got good enough pressure up front. And so like I can see that being a formula. Like I have preference, but that can be a formula. And if you're gonna go like Kirk Cousins and Will Howard, maybe it could be. Is that a 9-8 football team? Is that a 10-7 football team? It could be. It could be. So I think I want to say thank you to everybody who's watched today and been here with us, because I know we are just like, it just feels like all of a sudden the winds of change are blowing, and I'm reinvigorated personally as a fan, and like looking at the outlook of this team, and it seems like a lot of other people are too. We experimented last week with being not live on YouTube. Now we are live on YouTube this week. I think we're just going to continue to be live on YouTube. What do you, Jacob and I all, and Casey will talk about that. But just the fact that we get so many people that consistently tune in, and now we're going to start ramping up here very shortly, is really exciting. So for any final thoughts there, Jacob?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Orange cream Coke Zero. Check it out.
Oh, it's great. And here's my promise to the show. Next week, I'm going to bring a blackberry Dr. Pepper, because I told Jacob I would, and I got to hold myself accountable because I've been failing the last 2 weeks. So I'm bringing blackberry Dr. Pepper for live show review. Maybe we'll get a mock draft next week. What do you think?
Yeah, we were gonna do one this week, but we didn't have Casey, so we're gonna wait.
Yeah, we got to get Casey back. So we'll get Casey back, do some mock drafts, have some blackberry Dr. Pepper, and maybe some orange Coke. And no, negative Nick is gone. He's over. That's history, MC. We are back. We are back. So, that being said, this is a knee-deep in draft season episode of the Barking Brown Show. I genuinely wonder which number we are now. I'm Nick. He's Jacob. It's a lot. Love you all. Go Browns.
Bye.